Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go back in time. And the reason why we're going to go back in time because America and Americans were warned about everything that's now happening before it happened. Former Vice President Kamala Harris addressed a crowd of 75,000 supporters at the eclipse in Washington, D.C. during the closing arguments of her campaign to American voters ahead of the election day of November 2024. So, let's go back in time. Since people thought they were being caught off guard, really? When individuals have been warned and they don't heed the warning, then you know what comes next? Destruction. We're going back in time. Former Vice President Kamala Harris making the case as to why she should have become the President of the United States of America.
Good evening, America! Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives. Thank you, everyone. So listen, 1 week from today, you will have the chance to make a decision that directly impacts your life, the life of your family, and the future of this country we love. And it will probably be the most important vote you ever cast. And this election is more than just a choice between two parties and two different candidates. It is a choice about whether we have a country rooted in freedom for every American or ruled by chaos and division. Have probably already cast your ballots. But I know many others are still considering who to vote for, or whether you'll vote at all. So tonight, I will speak to everyone about the choice and the stakes in this election. Look, we know who Donald Trump is. He is the person who stood at this very spot nearly 4 years ago and sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol to overturn the will of the people in a free and fair election. An election that he knew he lost. Americans died as a result of that attack. 140 law enforcement officers were injured because of that attack. And while Donald Trump sat in the White House watching as the violence unfolded on television, he was told by his staff that the mob wanted to kill his own vice president. And Donald Trump responded with 2 words: "So what?" America, that's who Donald Trump is. And that's who is asking you to give him another 4 years in the Oval Office. Not to focus on your problems, but to focus on his. And Donald Trump has told us his priorities for a second term. He has an enemies list of people he intends to prosecute. He says that one of his highest priorities is to set free the violent extremists who insulted those law enforcement officers on January 6th. Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him. People he calls, quote, the enemy from within. America, this is not a candidate for president who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power. Donald Trump has spent a decade trying to keep the American people divided and afraid of each other. That is who he is. But America, I am here tonight to say that is not who we are. That is not who we are. That is not who we are. You see, what Donald Trump has never understood is that e pluribus unum, out of many, one, isn't just a phrase on a dollar bill. It is a living truth about the heart of our nation. Our democracy doesn't require us to agree on everything. In fact, we like good arguments from time to time. Just think of your own family, right? It's not the American way to not have disagreements. We don't shy away from robust debate. In fact, we like a good debate, don't we? We like a good debate. And the fact that someone disagrees with us does not make them the enemy within. That's right. They are family, neighbors, classmates, co-workers. They are fellow Americans. And as Americans, we rise and fall together. America, for too long, we have been consumed with too much division, chaos, and mutual distrust. And it can be easy then to forget a simple truth. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. It is time to stop pointing fingers. We have to stop pointing fingers and start locking arms. It is time to turn the page on the drama and the conflict, the fear and division. It is time for a new generation of leadership in America. To offer that leadership as the next President of the United States of America. Now look, let me say, I recognize this has not been a typical campaign. Even though I've had the honor of serving as your Vice President for the last 4 years, I know that many of you are still getting to know who I am. Well, let me tell you, I am someone who has spent most of my career outside of Washington, D.C., so I know that not all the good ideas come from here. I am not afraid of tough fights against bad actors and powerful interests, because for decades, as a prosecutor and a top law enforcement officer of our biggest state, I won fights against big banks that ripped off homeowners, against for-profit colleges that scammed veterans and students, against predators who abused women and children, and cartels that trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. And I did this work because for as long as I can remember, I have always had an instinct to protect. There's something about people being treated unfairly or overlooked that frankly just gets to me. I don't like it. It's what my mother instilled in me, a drive to hold accountable those who use their wealth or power to take advantage of other people. The drive to protect hardworking Americans who aren't always seen or heard and deserve a voice, and I will tell you that is the kind of president I will be. And look, I'll be honest with you, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, but here's what I promise you. I will always listen to you, even if you don't vote for me. I will always tell you the truth, even if it is difficult to hear. I will work every day to build consensus and reach compromise to get things done. And if you give me the chance to fight on your behalf, there is nothing in the world that will stand in my way. So look, in less than 90 days, either Donald Trump or I will be in the Oval Office. Okay? On day one, if elected, Donald Trump would walk into that office with an enemies list. When elected, I will walk in with a to-do list full of priorities of what I will get done for the American people. And I will work with everyone, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, to help Americans who are working hard and still struggling to get ahead. I have been honored to serve as Joe Biden's vice president. But I will bring my own experiences and ideas to the Oval Office. My presidency will be different because the challenges we face are different. Our top priority as a nation 4 years ago was to end the pandemic and rescue the economy. Now, our biggest challenge is to lower costs that were rising even before the pandemic and that are still too high. I get it. I still remember our mother sitting at that yellow Formica table, late at night, cup of tea in hand, a pile of bills in front of her, trying to make it all work. And I've heard from so many of you who are facing even greater financial pressures. Donald Trump's answer to you is the same as it was the last time. Another $1 trillion in tax cuts for billionaires and big corporations. And this time, he will pay for it with a 20% national sales tax on everything you buy that is imported. Think about it. Clothes, food, toys, cell phones. A Trump sales tax that would cost the average family nearly $4,000 more a year. And on top of that, you will pay even more if Donald Trump finally gets his way and repeals the Affordable Care Act, which would throw millions of Americans off their health insurance and take us back to when insurance companies had the power to deny people with pre-existing conditions. Well, we are not going back. We are not going back.
Let me interject here for a moment, Tyrone Bowman Live. The purpose of this video is simple. It's a reminder to America. You had an opportunity to elect an individual that would have been decent in every aspect, but you chose not to. And now the divisiveness that we have in this nation, the unchecked balance of power, the racism and bigotry that is very prevalent coming out of Washington, D.C. You all say in yourselves, you voted for this. Well, let me tell you what you didn't vote for, and you'll never be honest because you don't want to admit you're wrong. You didn't vote for higher taxes. You didn't vote for people to be murdered in the streets. You didn't vote for another war. You didn't vote to have soldiers come home in body bags to their grieving fathers or mothers. You did not vote for high inflation. You didn't vote for the agricultural industry to be decimated. You didn't vote for the very same people that you claim that you hate, who build your houses, build your schools, cook your food, watch over your children. You didn't vote to have them thrown out of the country. You didn't vote for Medicaid and Medicare to be eradicated and for Social Security to become privatized. You can delude yourself in your mind and say that if you want to, but you know that it's not true. But rather than to admit the truth that the majority of you all, you didn't vote for Harris for one thing. Now, where she made her biggest mistake at, she never should have selected Tim Walz as her running mate. She should have selected Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania. That's who should have been on the Democratic ticket because she would have won. And number two, you didn't vote for Kamala Harris because she's a Black woman. That's the bottom line. So lie to yourself, delude yourself, try to convince yourself that when you see the carnage, the chaos, the lawlessness, the inflation, the incendiary high prices for food and gas. You even heard within the last 72 hours that gas prices are going to go up. You heard within the last 72 hours that there's going to be more carnage, that this war is going to go on for quite some time. As long as it doesn't affect you, you don't care about other people. See, as long as it's destroying somebody else's lives and nations and territory, it doesn't come to your city, your town, your neighborhood, and your population, your small circle of individuals. The vast majority, you don't care. You know, one thing I've seen growing up in America, and that is this. And I grew up in the hood, baby. I grew up around hardcore, bigoted, racist people. So don't tell me that I don't know what racism is. I grew up in the midst of it all, right in the city of Philadelphia. But despite it all, we as a people always survived. Listen up to me, my Black brothers and sisters who have subscribed to this channel by the thousands. Get your act together. Act like you know what you're doing and how to talk and how to survive. Tap into the strength of your grandmothers and your mothers and your grandfathers. Go back in time and start reading about your ancestors, how they weathered the storm and the vitriolic racism and bigotry from cruel, ungodly, heathenistic, perverted slave owners. Remember who you are. Stop getting lost in this political climate. Stop thinking that there's no hope. Stop thinking that there is no way out. Yes, there is. Individuals always have a choice. They always have to make hard decisions. And before I'm going back to the video, I'm going to say this. While these politicians have you all concentrating on this war, that'll be a protracted war, they're planning and scheming about how to steal the midterm elections. Because the election is not going to be stopped. They want to steal it. Now, what do you have to say? I see all the comments coming up, and I'm not going to respond to them. You have the right to type whatever you want. You have a right to say whatever you want. But for me, I'm going to stay concentrated and focus on what I'm doing. So, welcome to the program. Welcome to the conversation. Say whatever you want about me. I really don't care. But I'm not going to respond. So I got too much work to do. Now that's my answer to you all in the comment section. So let me get back to former Vice President Kamala Harris, who warned America And a lot of people don't take heed to warnings. But when destruction comes, well, the first thing they want to say, oh my God, oh my God. What God you talking about? Because you sure enough ain't serving them. All right, and get back to former VP Harris. Oh, and she will be back on the national scene. Just in case you all think she's not coming back. She'll be back.
We are not going back because we also know Donald Trump would deliver tax cuts to his billionaire donors. I will deliver tax cuts to working people and the middle class. I will make sure you have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead. Because I believe in honoring the dignity of work. I will enact the first ever federal ban on price gouging on groceries. Cap the price of insulin and limit out-of-pocket prescription costs for all Americans. I will fight to make sure that hardworking Americans can actually afford a place to live. I'll never forget how our mother saved up and how excited she was when she could finally afford to buy our first home. I remember how excited she was. And I know that owning a home is not only a measure of financial security, it's about the pride of your hard work. And as president, I will fight to help first-time home buyers with your down payment, take on the companies that are jacking up rents, and build millions of new homes. For years, we have heard excuses about why America can't build enough housing. Enough with the excuses. I'm going to cut the red tape and work with the private sector and local governments to speed up building and get it done. And the cost of housing isn't the only financial pressure on middle-class families. I've met so many young people who have a natural desire to parent their children well, but not always the resources to do it. So I'll fight for a child tax credit to save them some money, which will also lift American children out of poverty. I'll work to lower the cost of childcare, which is out of reach for too many working families today. And for too many people in the sandwich generation who are raising young children and taking care of a parent, juggling all of it is extremely difficult. You know, I took care of my mother when she got sick, cooking food that she had a taste for, finding clothes that would not irritate her skin, and understand, as I do, that caregiving is about dignity. It is about dignity. And currently, if you need home care and you don't have some money to hire someone, you and your family need to deplete your savings to qualify for help. That's just not right. So we're going to change the approach and allow Medicare to cover the cost of home care so seniors can get the help and care they need in their own homes. Now, Donald Trump has a different approach. He tried to cut Medicare and Social Security every year he was president. Look, I believe that when people have worked hard their entire life, they deserve to retire with the benefits they have earned. And I believe in the fundamental freedom of Americans to make decisions about their own bodies and not have their government tell them what to do. I will fight fight to restore what Donald Trump and his hand-selected Supreme Court justices took away from the women of America. That today, 1 in 3 women in America, think about it, 1 in 3 women in America lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban. Many with no exceptions even for rape and incest. The idea that a woman who survives a crime of a violation to her body should not have the authority to make a decision about what happens to her body next, that is immoral. That is immoral. And Trump's not done. He would ban abortion nationwide, restrict access to birth control and put IVF treatments at risk, and force states to monitor women's pregnancies. Just Google Project 2025 and read the plans for yourself. And look, I think we all know one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to simply agree the government should not be telling her what to do with her body. Not the government. And when Congress passes a bill to restore reproductive freedom nationwide, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into...
Ladies and gentlemen, Tyrone Bowman live. I have to take a quick break. I'll be right back. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Tyrone Bowman live. I'm taking you back in time to the speech that now former Vice President Kamala Harris made and warned America and Americans about everything that is happening today. And I'll say this just before I pull the video back up. A lot of you people are self-deluded because you want to believe that you made the right decision. So you are self-deluded into making yourself believe it. You're hypochondriacs. And furthermore, Project 2025 is real and it's going to affect you all as well. Of course, you don't think it is, but I know it's affecting you. White people are suffering just as bad as Black people and Mexicans and Latina and Asian people are. But your pride, your arrogance, your hate, your vitriol, and you call yourselves Christians. Well, if that's the Christian God that you serve, a God who's racist and bigoted and misogynistic, then you can keep that God. Yeah, I mean what I say. Because I will not serve a God who's racist, bigoted, misogynistic, and hates people because of the color of their skin. And I don't ever take any advice from someone who's never been discriminated against. Because you live in a world where white privilege is everything. You can be broke and poor, illiterate, unlearned, but your white privilege is all you have to stand on. Nothing more, nothing less. Why do you think Trump became a Republican? I know why he became one. But do you? Because he was a lifelong Democrat. The same reason why Ronald Reagan left the Democratic Party and became a Republican. Think about it. All right, let's get back to the video, 15 minutes in length.
And look, on another subject, politicians have got to stop treating immigration as an issue to scare up votes in an election. And instead, treat it as the serious challenge that it is that we must finally come together to solve. I will work with Democrats and Republicans to sign into law the border security bill that Donald Trump killed. When I was Attorney General of a border state, I saw the chaos and violence caused by transnational criminal organizations that I took on. And when I am president, we will quickly remove those who arrive here unlawfully, prosecute the cartels, and give Border Patrol the support they so desperately need. At the same time, we must acknowledge we are a nation of immigrants.
Normally I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to respond to this one. Quote, so angry your anger is destroying your race. Let me hip you to something, because I know you're a racist. I know you're a bigot. You don't know anything about black people. And you don't know anything about my ancestry or my race. See, the problem with you racists and bigots is this. You don't want anyone to call you out on your crap. You don't want to be confronted because you're bullies deep down on the inside. And when you're by yourself, you're not boastful, you're not loud, you're a coward deep down the inside. My race is who I'm proud to be a part of. And I'm not going to allow a racist, a bigot, to try to tell me how to be a black man in America. And that's a stipulated fact. On this program over here, this black man is unapologetic. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. If your president can cuss and swear and raise hell and say whatever you want, and you all sit back and applaud like it's the gospel truth, and then when a black man opens up his mouth and speaks freely, as the Constitution guarantees him the right to say, then you have a problem with it. Frankly, I don't give a damn. The days for black people walking down the street and stepping aside because some white person comes along is over. You can get that. It's not going to happen no more. We're not doing it. We're just as equal as anybody else in this nation. I care about all people. Y'all only care about that Confederate flag.
And I will work with Congress to pass immigration reform, including an earned path to citizenship for hardworking immigrants like farm workers and our dreamers. As Commander-in-Chief, I will make sure America has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has shown his contempt for our nation's heroes, calls them suckers and losers, called a 4-star Marine general a, quote, lowlife. I will always honor, never denigrate, the service and sacrifice of our troops and their families, and fulfill our sacred obligation to care for them. I will strengthen, not surrender, America's global leadership. And I will stand with our friends because I know that our alliances keep American people safe and make America stronger and more secure. Look, world leaders think that Donald Trump is an easy mark. easy to manipulate with flattery or favor. And you can believe that autocrats like Putin and Kim Jong-un are rooting for him in this election. I will always uphold our security, advance our national interest, and ensure that the United States of America remains, as we must forever be, a champion of liberty around the world. America, we know what Donald Trump has in mind. More chaos, more division, and policies that help those at the very top and hurt everyone else. I offer a different path, and I ask for your vote.
And I'm going to leave it right there. I think she made it abundantly clear. A blast from the past. I'm going to sum this portion of Tyrone Bowman up live this way. E pluribus unum rather, out of many one. And a lot of you all think you got it all down. Just like Trump came back and won the presidency like a phoenix rising up out of the ashes. Kamala Harris will be back. You all may not want her to come back, but she's coming back. She's doing what's smart. Watching, listening, planning, executing, waiting for the right moment. Now, will she be president? No one knows. But she'll be back on the scene. But I do know one thing. America is not going to vote for Republicans the way you think. Not in the upcoming midterm elections and not in the presidential elections. Why? Because people have seen the light. All right, I'm out of here. Got to go. Thank you all for coming on. Thank you for your comments, pro and con. Doesn't matter with me. Thank you all who are subscribers to the channel. I'll be back later on with global news. Until then, peace. I'm out. Never surrender. Never quit.